Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers Cleats podcast. That was an abrupt ending. It is Monday, November 11th. This is episode 149. Don Harris, Chuck McIntyre, Matt Roy on tap. Before we get started, want to wish Bob and everyone else out there a happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contribution to our livelihood.
12 years in the Air Force.
Attaboy. Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you very much to everybody out there who keeps us safe here at home and abroad. So can't give enough credit to all of the veterans out there. I know I have some in my family. I'm sure you guys do as well. It seems like everyone does.
Yeah.
Any Veterans Day stories? Any shout outs you want to give before we get started, guys?
Saw my veteran today. My dad took him to the dentist today and he's still doing well. Had a great talk on the way over there, a great talk on the way home. So that was they were so nice at the dentist office too. Shout out to them too.
Yeah, the general. Chuck's dad was big time.
General McIntyre?
My father-in-law, James Knight, colonel in the Air Force. And served very proudly for, I don't know, almost 40 years.
Yeah, I had a couple of uncles and a grandfather all in the Air Force. Or all in the Army, excuse me.
Shout out Grant Harris, my youngest son, 28 years old today.
Nice.
There you go. And 35 years to Don Harris for 35-year anniversary at News 4.
Today.
Congratulations.
We have a lot going on today, guys.
Yeah.
Let's start patting ourselves on the back.
Very
here.
nice.
Just say 10. Just say 10 years.
It's all right. You
30.
still look good 35 years later.
I don't know about that.
All right. Well, I tried to be nice.
I think you're beautiful.
Before we get started,
If I do, it's a miracle.
Beautiful.
We're all beautiful in our own way.
Smoke
before
and
we get
mirrors.
started, I want to remind everyone, subscribe to the YouTube channel, News 4 and Fox SA. If you're so inclined, download, rate, review the podcast, download, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Helps us out a lot. We got a lot going on besides all of the congratulations and friendliness up here. There was
Would anyone ever know about when their anniversary date would be if it wasn't for LinkedIn?
I do.
Okay.
But that was also only like 4 years ago for me. So
Yeah, I had no idea until I started getting all these messages.
I'm strangely good with dates.
Okay, so is Goose, my old sports photo.
Very good with dates. What about you, Chuck?
Bad with dates, bad with time in general. I'm just living in the now.
I have an old sports photographer, Keith Van Proy and
Goosey.
Goose, yeah, who like would say, you know what today is? And I'd say, no. And he'd say, 20 years ago today, we were in Phoenix. It was a Tuesday. The Spurs beat the Suns in game 3. And that was the day we saw
XYZ.
some Stevie Nicks at the Houston's restaurant or whatever. And I'd be like, what? It was a Tuesday. How do you know this? And it's always in his head.
Guys, how was your weekend? Sports viewing weekend?
Sports viewing weekend.
Or just in general, how was the weekend?
Yes, I was going to say, I don't know that I watched anything this weekend.
Besides the Cowboys and the...
Well, that was work.
That was...
And right now that's good. Yeah, it takes on a dual meaning there.
It is definitely
yes.
work. How about
I
you?
watched the Texas football game. Quinn Ewers looked good. Yeah.
Yeah, Florida looked like a dead fish on that one, but
Yeah.
starting your third string quarterback, not great. My weekend was really good until about 3:00 yesterday afternoon.
What happened? You lost money.
No, I didn't lose money. I lost pride. My heart broke a little bit.
Oh, the Broncos. That
Yeah.
was awful.
That I said it yesterday, and I had a little bit of chance to digest it. And living with a Chiefs fan and being married to in a family of Chiefs fans now with all my in-laws,
Oh, wow.
it's even worse. But so like Jordan and I weren't friends from 12 to 3, but we were still watching it and all that stuff. We had a little watch party at our house. I've decided, one, I'm never going to have a watch party ever again, because last time I had a watch party at my house for a Broncos game was in technically 2014, when the Broncos lost to the Seahawks 43-8 in the Super Bowl. So haven't had one since then. It's been 10 years. And yesterday they lose on the blocked kick. So I'm never having a watch party ever again. I'm going to watch in solitude.
It was like a 35-yarder too, right?
It was
Like
40. Yeah.
What did you
like that.
think of the guy that was playing on the left side of the line? On
Alex
that play?
Forsyth.
He got pancaked.
Well, first of all, there was a penalty on that play. It wasn't called. Second of all, Alex Forsyth has done a really good job for us. He started at center all game. Anyway, I don't want to get into the specifics of it. But yesterday, I took a few hours to myself, and I was like, after I digested everything, I can honestly say that is one of the worst, most disheartening losses
Sure.
I've ever been a part of as a Broncos fan.
I just would say this.
because of the history of the rivalry, because of how we are the nail and they're the hammer, in the rivalry and just the storied history of the two franchises, it was one of the most destructive losses, disheartening losses of all time.
Well, if you took the under on how long it would take for you to mention the game, it was 5 minutes. So
hey, there you go.
The under wins.
I didn't want to get into it that much, but
That was the hilarious thing was
Here we are 10 minutes
Broncos
into the podcast.
radio's call. Broncos radio's call was priceless. I mean, it was just like, so here it is for the game. Blah, blah, the snap is hold is good. It was blocked.
the worst part the worst part about the whole thing is how
Silence.
perfect the drive went up to it. They needed one more first down. They got the first down. You milk the clock all the way down to 1 second. You don't let Patrick Mahomes have the ball ever again, and you still lose. So
I can
but
say
anyway.
this. Chuck and I watched it. Had they put 59-year-old Don Harris at left guard or tackle, whatever that
Yeah,
spot,
it was the 5 spot on the left side.
right. They couldn't have pancaked me any easier than they pancaked that.
Well, as you saw, I don't know if you saw this morning, they did a breakdown of it on Get Up. Dan Orlovsky kind of did it. He showed all of the field goals and
All three of
extra
them,
extra points leading up to it. And so on the first extra point, there was really no push. They didn't really realize that Alex Forsyth was a little light on his feet. On the second one, they realized, oh, okay, maybe we can get a push here. So they put 2 guys over and bowled him over on the second PAT, I think it was, and they almost got the block. And then on the third one was a field goal at the end of the half. They got him again, and they were like, okay, well, we can definitely block something. And so then they finally did it on the last
All
one.
I know was it almost looked like he dramatized it too. Like he almost went like,
Well, at that point,
that was as bad of a pancake or flop or whatever you want to call it as I think I've ever seen in
Ever.
professional football.
well, what they also teach you is if you get bowled over, hold on for dear life. So at least you have another chance.
Or
And he didn't hold
Kick
on.
your leg up, do something to impede
Yeah.
progress of somebody trying to block your kick.
Yeah, that sucked. So my weekend was great until then, and it was great. My day was going really well until now. So let's get to what we're actually here for. Let's talk some Spurs. They are now 4-6 after losing a tough home game to the Jazz on Saturday, taking on the Kings tonight. Wizards on Wednesday. Devin Vassell, much anticipated return on Saturday. He looked pretty good coming off the bench. Some controversial things said about Wemby this weekend, though, that we'll get Don and Chuck's take on about his offense maybe being a liability. Plus, Cowboys lost at home to the Philly again in embarrassing and emphatic fashion again. But what was said after the game might even be more controversial and headline grabbing for which always seems the case with the Cowboys. Jerry Jones said some fiery stuff about the curtains and the stadium
Certainly.
build.
Let's just tear the whole damn thing down.
Micah Parsons basically telling his coach to go kick rocks.
No, that's overblown.
All right, yeah, that was a little bit much by me. But first, before we get to that, I want to get to some trivia. Today, the trivia question is, the Cowboys had 49 net passing yards yesterday, which sounds like a fake number, but it's true. 49 net passing yards once you subtract the sacks. When is that's the least in any game since when? 49 net passing yards. They had less.
I feel like we must have come across this yesterday.
I feel like you did too, which is why I asked the question,
Yeah.
because if you didn't come across it, this is going to be a really hard question.
Since
2011, 2012. or
scab
something. I don't know why
year.
that's in my.
what about
Why
the
that's
scab
over.
year? 87.
I think-
Kevin, what was his name?
You guys want me to tell you now, or do you want to wait till
Yeah,
we get
go ahead and
Velour.
tell. Yeah,
All right. So 2001.
that was my next game.
versus the Buccaneers in the season opener. The game ended 10-6 with the Bucs winning. You guys know who the starting quarterback was?
2001.
And
Quincy Carter.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Quincy Carter.
Quincy Carter. Quincy Carter was 9 of 19 for 34 yards, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. He ended with 28 net passing yards.
Woo.
Not good. Yesterday, also not good. At least that game was a little closer.
That would drive a man to drugs.
Jesus. All right. So that's our Cowboys take on it. Let's get to them in a little bit. We'll start with the Spurs. So the Spurs starting off the season 4-6. They are not shooting well, as probably anticipated. Don, you weren't here Thursday. Give me your take on the first 10 games of the Spurs season.
Well, without Devin and with Jeremy now sidelined, they've had inconsistent lineups. You knew it was going to take some time for Chris Paul to get used to each other. I'd say it's kind of like a B-. I'm a little encouraged at their record and with the way that Castle has played.
He
And
had a really good game on Saturday.
I was really discouraged by Wemby's start, especially offensively. He just hasn't looked like he's either completely healthy or comfortable, but that changed, and he continues to put up numbers even despite how it looks. That changed the other night when he went 6 for
9 from 3.
Yeah, so I would say better through 10 games than I would have predicted, and I do predict that as Devin gets integrated and as this thing just keeps moving down the road, as long as they don't have any major setbacks like Wemby out or Chris Paul out, I think they're right on track for that 41-41 type record.
What about you, Chuck?
They were 3-7 last year at this time through the first 10 games, so they're ahead of last year's pace.
To be fair, they were 3-2 to start last year and then went on the 18-game losing streak.
Correct.
So they were at the very beginning of the losing streak.
But if we're looking at this season in the 10-game sampling, they're 1 game better than they were last year at this time, so improvement.
They're also playing better at this point this year than they were a year ago.
Well,
Because they were
not through the first 5 games last year. I don't know that you could make that assessment.
I mean, they were in the middle of their Sohan experiment last year.
They look better.
They do look better. They look better as a team this year than they
have
last
more
year.
weapons, although shooting is still an issue.
That's what I was going to ask. Like they're the 9th worst team in the league right now when it comes to 3-point percentage. Is that something that can be fixed over time this season, or is it going to take acquisitions to get that up?
Their attitude seems to be it will fix itself with more attempts.
Yeah, they want to shoot 50 a game.
Yeah.
Well, Vassell's also their best 3-point shooter. And
Yeah.
getting him back is going to help.
Sure.
At least he's the most ballsy 3-point shooter. Like he takes some
and Champagne's been good.
Yeah, he takes some ill-advised ones sometimes. Do you think there's going to be acquisitions through this, or like they're just going to be comfortable being around the middle of the pack when it comes to 3-point shooting?
I don't know. I would think they've got so many assets, right, between Keldon and Branham and Wesley and Collins, that they could, if they wanted to, get equal value for a specialist like Davis Bertans or somebody like that shoots primarily as a 3-point shooter. I don't know that that's what they want to do, but it seems like they have an abundance of the same guys. Trey Jones, Wesley, Branham, Vassell, Keldon, Castle. It's like there's a bunch of guys that do similar things, but none of them are great 3-point shooters.
And none of them really separate themselves. Like Vassell obviously is the cream of the crop when it comes to that group of characters.
Yeah.
But the Malachis, the Wesleys, everybody like that is just hanging on.
Another guy. Yeah. Now Castle's on his way up, and he's going to be Vassell, I think, or better.
Should be better than that.
Yeah.
What I've seen is, there's a paradigm here that I'm not really sure, what is real and what's imagined, right? So like Scalabrine came out and said, I'm not watching them anymore. They shoot too many threes and they don't make them, blah, blah, blah. And then Keldon today said, we're going to shoot more threes. Well, if a guy's wide open and you run your offense so well that guys are shooting uncontested threes, I think you want those shots, whether to this point they've made them a lot or not. I think over time, the way if the offense begins to flow better and more consistently, no matter who they have on the floor, if a guy has a wide open 3, he better take it. That's the league that we live in now. And you cannot pass up a wide open shot. So I would think over time, when guys become more familiar with each other and catch passes in rhythm and shoot open threes in rhythm, and they're not catching them over here and then trying to shoot a 3, those are the ones that don't go in. If you can create enough opportunities where you get rhythm 3s that are open, then I think this is the way to go, and it will get better. It's just, I'm not really sure how to look at all of this right now, because I don't think by any stretch of the imagination they're a finished product at this point, but you can't stop shooting them at this point. I mean, you have to spread the floor this way in today's NBA.
I don't have the advanced analytics, the advanced next gen stats that'll tell you how many threes, which percentage are open, which percentage are contested, and all that stuff. But a lot of them are open from viewing them. That are,
and they're going to get more open threes now that Vassell's back, because what I've noticed is there's 2 really good drivers and kickers. and that's Castle and Vassell. And Castle's just not playing enough minutes, but it has not the first 3 or 4 games. It's starting to play more now. But Castle can get anywhere he wants, and so does Vassell. And they're good, and they're thinking about kicking. Keldon, when he puts his head down, he's never
He's going to the basket.
He's going to the rim. And Wemby is pretty good at passing out of double teams to hit open guys. And Paul always makes the right play. So I think they're going to get more open looks. Wemby said it best. After he had that great night the other night, he goes, look, I'm not going to shoot 66% from 3, but I'm also not going to shoot 25%.
Yeah, he's at 28% on the year right now.
Yeah, so. He goes, and so it's going to
balance out.
As Manu always used to say, revert to the mean.
A couple things that are positive for the Spurs this year. Their defense is considerably better. They are light years ahead of where they were. They're 5th in the league in points per game right now. They're 7th in opponent field goal percentage inside the 3-point line. 3-point percentage isn't that great when it comes to that, but you have Wemby inside, you're going to have a good 2-point percentage. Their defense is light years ahead of where they were, which is impressive. Stephon Castle obviously making a huge difference there. Harrison Barnes plays hard defense, which I like a lot. Victor is obviously probably going to be the defensive player of the year. He's going to lead the league in blocks. He has 4 blocks a game right now.
He's leading like 5 franchises.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how many shots he blocks, but that is extremely encouraging when you think of the effort level that it takes to play defense. When you have that many guys playing with that kind of effort, you're going to play better defense. So I like seeing that early on in the season.
Yeah, they're going to be better. They're going to be okay.
Speaking to Wemby's offensive issues, to use a term, there was an anonymous NBA scout, which we can all take that with a grain of salt. Anonymous NBA scout that called out Wemby as an offensive liability. Quote, he's absolutely awesome on defense and not impactful at all on offense. He just looks like he's playing without a whole lot of direction. Don?
He's averaging 20 and 10. You know, I mean,
he's averaging 18.
But how many guys in the league? Okay, 18. How many guys in the league? I mean, based on what I think that's a quote based on expectation. When you're expected to be the greatest player who ever lived in the history of pro sports, what did he say? The greatest prospect
ever.
When you're expected to do that, yes, he's falling short, but he's not falling short of most of Tim Duncan's career numbers, right? So.
There's a limited sample size to this year, but when you just compare his stats this year to his stats last year, they're obviously down. Last year, he shot 33% from 3. This year, he's shooting 28% from 3. His field goal percentage, assists per game, points per game, free throw attempts, they're all down. I don't know what that can be attributed to other than, 1, trying to, mesh with some new guys, and 2, the expectation on him, and 3, from this summer.
I think it's more of a. I don't mean to bogart the microphone, Chuck.
No, you're good.
I think it's more of a team philosophy. He had 12 points the other night, and they won. And 6 other guys were in double figures. I think it says something to, other than I think he jacks up too many threes.
Yeah, he's 2 of 7 basically from 3 per game.
Yeah. Other than that, I think he's willing to be a part of a group. When guys like Harrison Barnes have 15 and Jeremy has 18 and Paul has 14 and 10 and all these guys, and you look at the box score and it's really balanced. And he's in there with 12 points, but I think he had like 7 blocks and like 13 rebounds. It's like, okay, he's not putting up the big numbers offensively, but they won against a decent team, and he's more than willing to be a part of that than throw it into him. Because this coaching knows that if you continue to do that, teams are pretty much on to how they can limit him with their physicality, push him out of where he wants to get. And so it forces him to pass out of double teams and work within a team concept, and that's what basketball is. And that's why I think he likes playing for the Spurs, is because Wemby's kind of a selfless guy in that regard.
Yeah, to me, sometimes it looks like his energy's bad on that end of the floor. And I take the last game out because I did not see the last game where he obviously went off 6 of 7. Talked about the plus minus before we came out here was unbelievable. So, if you look at all the stats, offensively, defensively, that might have been his best game as a Spur, all things being equal, especially when you add in, the other variables. But, there are other times too when he gets the ball and it's like, okay, you know what he's going to do? He's looking to just get to a spot or to a place where he feels comfortable getting up a shot. And I feel like the ball stops sometimes. Like the ball doesn't move. The other guys, all of a sudden, they're not moving. It's just like, we're going to sit back and watch what happens here. So I think there's a learning curve probably for Victor, and there's also a learning curve for everybody else that's on the floor with him. When Victor gets the ball, how does it make everybody better around him so that he gets even more opportunities offensively?
Yeah, his assist numbers are down too. I think that goes to how bad they've been from 3-point range, though, because if he gets you the ball and you don't make the shot, it doesn't mean it was a bad pass. It just means that you didn't hit the shot, so he doesn't get an assist. So I feel like when they start shooting better, because everything will revert back to the mean, the Spurs are not as bad of a shooting team as they have been for the last 10 games or so. Once those kind of rebound a little bit, pun intended, his assist numbers will go up and the offensive efficiency will go up as well.
Yeah, I still think he could add like an 8 to 10 foot jump hook and go quick to it. He catches the ball and a lot of times he puts it on the floor and loses it.
He takes a little bit too long.
And sometimes he's trying to get his leverage and position and gets pushed off the block. But if he would just catch it and make a quick move and go and shoot a little jump hook, I think he could be really dangerous.
Play a little more closer to the basket on offense too, and run everything through him. I mean, it's the old triangle offense, and do it with a guy that's 7'4" and's got arms to outer space.
Bob,
that's exactly what Tom Guerrero from the business office said.
Shout out TG.
He said just what you said. Wemby needs to keep the ball up high and not try to dribble in the paint.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to have him on the show.
Yeah, catch and go quick.
They teach you that when you're a kid. If you're taller than everybody else, keep the ball above everybody else.
John Wooden taught Kareem Abdul-Jabbar a nice little shot that made him the greatest scorer in the history of the game.
Second greatest scorer.
At the time when he retired. He was the greatest.
Last thing on this, I hate the anonymous people that come out of the woodwork and just say shit. Say stuff. Sorry. It tells you how much I hate it. I really do. I hate it when GMs or anonymous scouts or an anonymous coach, an anonymous NFC East coach or whatever comes out and says something like, put your freaking name on it if you want to say the stuff,
People don't know this, but a lot of times those anonymous NBA scouts are guys that have been fired by just other teams and they're not even on salary. They work for like $50 a game to leave their retirement community and drive over to the arena. And
it's so weak.
Scribble out a sheet and turn it back in and go back.
It's so weak to just like give someone a quote and call yourself an NBA scout. Like, put your name on it if you really want to say it with your chest.
Yeah.
I just hate that. Let's get to the Cowboys here real quick. Hey, Bob, anything else before we get there?
No, we're good.
All right, cool. Cowboys lost yesterday 34-6 to the Eagles. Cowboys are 3-6, their worst record since 2020. This team is just bad, man. This team is just
said.
Really, really, really bad. The defense had some moments, tried to keep them in it.
Dak said it best on the sidelines last week.
Can suck. They're just bad. They don't have the depth to keep up with a lot of other teams. Their defensive scheme gets worn out quickly. You don't have the bodies down low to keep up with the constant pounding of teams like the Ravens and the Eagles. Their offense is horrible. They haven't scored a touchdown at home since September 22nd. That's a long time ago. Yeah. They consistently are getting blown out at home. I just don't know what else we can say about this team just as a whole, not to mention the antics after the game when they speak into microphones.
Well, here's the thing is they're going to look back and say, oh, it's a wasted season because Dak got hurt. No, they were really bad before Dak got hurt.
Jerry said something to that effect yesterday, too. They were just like, what do you compare this offense and this team with as compared to when Dak was here? And he's like, well, we were 3-5 with Dak. So, Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, that's what stood out to me as well. It was, you can point to Dak wasn't there. You can point to this guy wasn't here. You can point to the sun in the eyes or whatever it is that we're going to blame the next thing on. It's bad from top to bottom, from stem to stern. And yeah, hats off to the defense for keeping them in the ball game for the first half. But at some point when you're on the field that long for that amount of time, you're eventually going to wear down. I don't know that there's any place on the field other than their kicker's gotten a little better from his greatness from last year that you can say that they're better from where they were last year. This is a bad team stem to stern.
I mean, and the game yesterday could have changed at the end of the first half. You Ezekiel Elliott fumbles into the end zone. That's a turnover when you're on, what was it, 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, something like that. Your defense gets the ball back for you. You get it 1st and 6, and on 2nd and 6, there's a incident where CD can't see the ball that would have hit him directly in the chest because of the sun.
You have 2 possessions inside the 5-yard line, and you come away
points.
with 3 points. I mean, that's just inexcusable.
Yeah,
and
the Giants know a lot about that. Yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's where the game was won and lost. And, if they make a play, if they get into the end zone, some way, somehow take the lead, it changes everything. And, again, how many times did we see yesterday too? It's 3rd and long and they're doing 2-yard pass plays. It's like at some point you've got to get the ball down the field. And I realize you might be 0 for 6 or 0 for 7, whatever it was, throwing the ball past 10 yards. But I mean, again, it was just bad.
That was the case with Dak too. When Dak was in, this year they haven't really gone downfield. And maybe, that says if you take CD away, they don't have another downfield threat. That's maybe that when they went out and got Mingo. I don't know, but they can't make pass plays more than 5 yards.
I want to talk a little bit more about the play that we were just talking about where CD couldn't see the ball.
Chuck's going to love this.
I know. Second and goal, Cooper Rush. You can throw that up there. Thank you.
Don's got to listen to me again today.
2nd and goal, Cooper Rush drills a ball to CeeDee Lamb for would have been an easy touchdown, would have given the Cowboys lead. Instead, Lamb lost it in the sun because of the windows that you're seeing that are at AT&T Stadium. The thing that grabbed the headlines was this, because CD visibly said he couldn't see the ball because of the sun. And this is the Cowboys' home stadium, $1 billion stadium with huge windows that has been a problem since they built it in 2009. Chuck, do you want me to read the Jerry Jones quotes or do you want to go first?
Go ahead and do what you want. I'll sit this one out until I have to get in, or I'm just compelled to get in.
All right. So Jerry, after the game, was asked about the curtains, maybe putting up some curtains to cover up the windows so the sun doesn't get in the eyes of their players when they're trying to catch touchdowns. And a frustrated Jerry Jones had some comments about that. He said, quote, "By the way," and I couldn't find the audio. I tried to find the audio it's not around. I think they cut it out of actually because I looked at the feed on, do you want to read this in Jerry's voice?
No.
I couldn't find the sound.
Certainly. By the way, we know where the sun is. We know where the sun's going to be when we decide to flip the coin or not. We do know where the damn sun's going to be in our own damn stadium.
Why not put up curtains over the windows, Jerry?
Well, let's just tear the whole damn stadium down and build another one. Are you kidding me? Everybody's got the same thing. Every team that comes in here has the same issues. I'm saying the world knows where the sun is. You get to know that almost a year in advance. Somebody asked me about the sun. What about the sun? Where's the moon?
That was good. I think that made this a lot better. So then
I didn't have enough certainty.
We get to break out this premise once a year. I guess that's why I'm tired of it, right? It's going to rear its head. So they catch the touchdown there. That team, that was a bad effort yesterday. They're going to lose that game anyway. So if we got to blame it on Jerry again and the stadium again, I'll just put it to you like this. What the hell did we do playing football before there was ever stadiums built in the first place? Did you ever have to deal with the sun? Javi, you're a baseball guy. Did you ever have to deal with the sun when you're playing sports? I mean, what? I just don't get out of the blue why all of a sudden, because there's sun in a guy's eyes, and it's not like that's the only time that the sun has come in to that stadium. It's like, I just don't get this. This is like the weakest excuse for whatever you want to hang, didn't make a play or whatever.
All valid points.
It didn't help that CD said this after the game.
No, I know what he said. That's what made me mad.
I played with you in Ferguson. A little miscommunication.
Couldn't see the ball at all.
The sun?
The sun. But
You in favor of curtains?
yes, 1,000%.
You talked to Gary about that.
I mean, y'all doing my job right now.
Y'all doing my job right now just because he hasn't talked to Jerry about it yet. He's letting us do it for him.
Right. It's an excuse for not getting there. I don't know. The thing that struck me was the interaction on the sideline that the cameras caught between McCarthy and CD. And you could see he was explaining himself, and McCarthy just had this look on his face like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we're using this as an excuse to not make a play. I mean, again, you didn't make the play. You may have lost the play in your eyes with the sun, but to sit there and make this worse than what it was, or to deflect where the attention is, which is, this is a bad team. Now, okay, we're going to scapegoat this into the sun was in my eyes. They need to rip the building down or put curtains up at the very least. I mean, come on.
Why not?
Okay, now
Why not put up curtains
hold-
though?
Yeah, this is, and Chuck, everything you said is 100% accurate, right? But two things can be true. They can be a really bad team, and the Sun could not be responsible for either the play or them losing the game. That's true. But this can also be true if you put up the curtains that they already own that they use for concerts and other things.
WWE put them up.
Right. So that it's not an issue, then both teams are better off. Just like the reason they started building dome stadiums in the first place in cold weather places is so that you could have a more
So you get more fans coming to cold weather games or not have to worry about weather canceling games.
and you get a more what true outcome of the game because conditions were not necessarily a factor.
Here's also
Like whether it's a rain game and guys are more
Well, like when you're receiving a punt, there are lights in the stadium up on the ceiling. I mean, you don't think that the guy with the punt that's fielding the punt has to look at the lights?
the lights
I
aren't
mean-
directly above them; they're on the sides.
It depends on where you catch the ball. There are lights all over the stadium, and there's scoreboards, and there's all kinds of other things that you could say, well, I lost it in the Jumbotron.
Looking into the lights
was-
is different than looking into the sun.
I mean, again, to me, this is you're acting as though the sun isn't a in play for both teams. It's just CeeDee Lamb on this one play, or just the Cowboys. Why
No.
is it always
No,
the
it's in
Cowboys?
play for
and I
both
think
teams.
to that,
So-
but to that point,
It's in play
you're
for both teams.
But to the point is,
but make it better for
you're
both teams.
supposed to have a home field advantage at your home stadium, and the fact that Jerry is saying, well, we've been playing here for 15 years, it comes into play for both teams. We know what side the sun's going to be on. Like, yeah, but you're supposed to give your own team an advantage when you're at home and not putting up the curtains
is
that
he
your,
mad
that your
that they
players
didn't-
want to
Or
want
is he
up.
mad that McCarthy knows which way to go and he did?
Well, that's not going to be a concern after this year anyway. McCarthy's a dead man walking.
But he's
So-
saying we know where the sun's going to be. It's the same thing.
I mean, could be. He could be blaming the coaching staff for wanting to.
but again, so then maybe that's part of the factoring too. I just think that this is much ado about. I can't believe what we're going here again. We do this every year with the sun through the windows. Let's concentrate on the problems. There are many that this team has. To think that we're going to scapegoat the building again.
All right, let me get you
Jason
another.
Garrett, it was an issue with 10, 12 years ago with Jason Garrett too. And so had they fixed it at the time, this wouldn't be a scapegoat because he would have either caught the ball or not. They would have won or another loss. But I think it's maddening to fans, especially if I was a season ticket holder and I had to be there for a 325 game sitting at that end of the stadium. I mean, the lead referee was standing behind the play, not that play, but another play going the other way, where he's, they always stand behind the quarterback, where he has his white baseball cap down and he's actually like this.
Mhm.
Then get some sunglasses. I mean, what's the problem?
Wear sunglasses inside. It's a new fashion statement.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else said after the
Yes,
game. Then, Chuck. Let's get to something else. So the other thing I wanted to get to is what Micah said after the game.
Yes,
You'll get to the full. I'm going to play the full question, or at least what we had with the mic that was right by here, and his answer, so we get the full context of it. So, Javi.
What's the sentiment inside the locker room, and what do you tell people who are wondering about whether McCarthy will be your coach next year?
That's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But all coaching aside, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But guys, I kind of feel bad for this guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year on their way out. Because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
See, he was doing so well until he got to like that 30-second mark when he said those guys put in so much more work than Mike McCarthy ever has. Like you were making a very valid point up until then. You were saying, I don't really care what happens with Mike. I play for the guys in this locker room. I play for the Zach Martins, the DeMarcus Lawrences of the world, the guys who have never won a championship and they're trying so hard and they've done for so long. They might retire. It's all for them. And then when you say they've worked harder than Mike McCarthy ever has, you just open yourself up to so much criticism because that's a horribly blasphemous statement. Coaches are there 12, 15 hours a day. There was a time, and Nathaniel Hackett is not someone that I love, but he was sleeping in his office to try and figure out what the hell they can do to try and turn around the Broncos offense from a couple of years ago. Like, the coaches put in the time and they put in the effort. And he had didn't he have a heart attack last year, Mike McCarthy? Like, he had the heart procedure last year when they were on their winning streak. Like, because of the stress of the job that he's under, you're going to say that Mike McCarthy doesn't work as hard as some of the players? I guarantee you he works harder than most of them.
It's a different kind of work.
It's a different
right?
kind of work, but it's just like, to say that about your head coach is not something that's okay.
And I agreed. And because of what he said, he will take a lot of criticism and should. However, I'm anxious to hear the podcast today because I think, knowing Micah and what Micah says, there's a difference between what Micah said and what Micah meant. And I don't think he meant that his coach doesn't either work hard or he can.
We do this so often, though. Like,
I know.
Say what you mean then. Don't just say crap to say crap.
Well, he said, a couple weeks ago when they were talking about Trayvon and he got into the thing with Mike Leslie.
Who was in that? Who was in that, by the way? He was from.
He was like, our media staff. And he meant the people who cover us, but they look at it as they should be working for us. I don't know that these young guys have a full understanding of what Mike McCarthy does, and I don't think there's any animosity towards Mike McCarthy. It's a great headline for Cyber Bob for the website that says Parsons, Mike McCarthy can leave and go wherever he wants.
Thanks,
But
Don.
really, he meant, Coach McCarthy's probably going to get fired. He'll go on. Life will be fine for him. But I feel bad for Zach Martin because he's never going to want.
He was making a good point until he got to the last part.
Yeah.
Don Harris wants Cowboys coach fired.
Yeah.
I think
You can print that, by the way.
it's hard to know exactly, what, we can read into what he said, but taking what he said on the surface, I just think that the correlation he made between the hard work, and even if he meant, football players put in way more hard work in terms of their bodies and the physicality and all that other stuff. But it does, I think, speak to probably a deeper problem, which is he's probably at the root of who he is, doesn't respect his head coach.
I think, and to your point of the guys misspeaking, sometimes not really saying what they mean, this team misspeaks an awful lot then. Like, there's some deep-rooted truth behind some of the words that they're saying, and because it seems like every week, obviously Jerry's more frustrated than he's been in years. Something spouts off
Tear
after
the
every
whole
game.
damn stadium then.
Yeah,
down.
I mean, he does something like that every week now. But when you have these kinds of outbursts, for lack of a better term, there's definitely some truth to what they're saying.
I'll
and
find
how they
somebody
feel.
else to ask me these damn
Agreed.
questions.
Yeah,
And I think too, this team is in front of a microphone more than any team on the planet.
it's true.
So things are going to get out, and we're going to, Monday morning scatter shoot all this stuff the next day. And I think you've said it best, right? Sometimes they're more interesting when they lose.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this is what you're going to get now for this slow march towards the end of the season. But, the bottom line is this is a really bad football team. And you look at these scores lately, home or wherever, they're bad. It's just they're not even competitive.
Last thing real quick. Trey Lance got into the game yesterday. He didn't move the needle at all. Does he start the rest of the season, or should he start the rest of the season? Like, they're 3-6. They're not out of it, I guess.
Not yet. Another 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not right now. And, maybe do what they did. They did have some packages for him. Looked like most of them were running packages. But, I don't know what you do. I mean, is Trey Lance going to, infuse all this energy into a team where are they good at?
Tim Tebow did that once upon a time.
Yes, but this team is, again, can you name me somebody that's playing right now on their defensive line? I think their corners are good. The linebackers are okay.
See when they get Deron Bland back.
They got 88, but he loses balls in the sun. What do you do at quarterback? Offensive line's in flux. I mean, where do you turn for, or where do you turn to for hope at this
Just
point?
tank for a better draft pick at this point. Why not?
Maybe.
You're gonna have to be worse than the Giants, though, and they're bad.
Their defense is at least pretty good. At least you can say that about them.
All right. Well, that's all we got for you today on Sneakers Cleats, unless Bob has anything he'd like to say.
We're good to go.
All right. Thank you once again to all the veterans out there. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. Hopefully, everyone has a good day on that front.
Yes, sir.
That's all we got for you today on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We will be back on Thursday at our normal accustomed time with no more high school or TNL. So we will be back at 1:00 every Thursday from now on. See you then.